Listen.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. The first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
Either you were with us or you were with the terrorists.
But I also believe that a lot of gun owners would agree that AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not in the hands of criminals. Guns will be taken, and no one will be able to be armed. We will take all guns.
For many of the police and guard troops, it is an uncomfortable job to do this in an American city.
Global governance at last. Is it one world? The central bankers in charge. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do?
As for me, give me liberty or give me death!
The answer to 1984 is 1776.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and I want to thank you for joining us this Patriots Day, 15th day of April 2013. Obviously, when you have a global corporate occupational government run by foreign banks that has been caught staging terror attacks all over the world, and that's declassified, and when you read about Operation Gladio, we're going to cover, where in Europe, if a left-wing or right-wing group started getting control of a country through the electoral process, who was not popular with the Bilderberg group, they would just stage terror attacks and blame it on them. So because we understand this history, we would be fools. We would be completely insane not to investigate this as a false flag terror attack. So I want to cover some of the facts of what's currently happening with the Patriots Day massacre, as they're now calling it, with the bombing of the Boston Marathon right there with the photo finish right at the end of the course. But you need to understand this. I have been warning you desperately, because it's all public in globalist white papers and different public publications, that the establishment has been saying that there will be domestic terror attacks here in the United States, and that domestic groups are going to be carrying those out. And they put out the asinine headlines that the Army plans to put down a Tea Party rebellion, and that the Tea Party is going to work with al-Qaeda. Let me tell you who works with al-Qaeda. It's the Central Intelligence Agency and the offshore banks. They run al-Qaeda. They created al-Qaeda. They use al-Qaeda to menace the West into submission. And when you look at the level and the magnitude of the dramas and the sitcoms and all of the other productions that are out there, where the right-wingers are going to stage the terror attack, the right-wingers are going to carry out all these different events. For someone who is conscious and awake, it is as plain as the nose on your face that as a society, and guys, I'm getting a feed into my ear, a humming feed, so they got a channel open, probably from the other side into my ear. That's why I had to take the piece out. A little hint on that. Thank you. I also hope that you understand that when you watch so-called mainstream globalist media, that they have reporters for a couple minutes reading off teleprompters who've rehearsed it for hours, who come on to look compelling and real, reading what someone else told them to say. When you see me up here, or my crew, this is teleprompter-free, real brain, real analysis. This is real. And I hope that all the viewers out there understand how special Infowars.com is, because we're fighting to even keep it up and running. I hope you realize that there is no other alternative media doing real live news, real analysis from a real historical perspective. It's all left-wing controlled or right-wing controlled. There is no real media out there. And I've got a skeleton crew out there that is probably into hour number 14 today, doing the regular radio show, the TV show, all of it. And I'm not up here complaining about that. I want you to realize that we are the resistance. And yes, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, everything we're doing is having more and more of an effect on so many fronts. And so the good news is when the White House comes out and demonizes the Drudge Report, or comes out and has their surrogates attack Infowars.com and myself, their surrogates like Media Matters and others openly run by the White House, it shows that we're in the fight. They wouldn't be attacking us if we weren't on to what was really happening. Now, let me just get this out in the open for everybody. The New York Post is reporting 12 dead, nearly 50 injured after 2 explosions rock Boston Marathon. Suspect identified and being guarded at hospital. And they're saying a Saudi Arabian. But separately, we have clips we're going to play in a moment of CNN. I mean, it's ad nauseum, and Fox and MSNBC saying, could it be right-wingers? It's Patriot Day. You know, they had other Patriot events in the area. Could this be, you know, carried out by them? And I went on the radio today 2 hours, well, really 3 hours before this happened, at 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern. And I said, all the hype and media buildup I see clearly is pointing towards the establishment firing the first shot but blaming it on us. Because whoever fires the shot heard around the world first has a good chance of losing because they're in the wrong. So I said the establishment will fire the first shot but blame it on us, just like Lexington and Concord, which actually happened again in and around Boston 200-something years ago today. Started today through the 19th. There were events and skirmishes. So you have to understand, if the globalists can demonize liberals, conservatives, libertarians, whatever the case is, whoever's opposing them, by setting off a bombing, a mass shooting, and then collectively blaming a group, they will do it. So you have to understand, it's not gun owners' fault Sandy Hook happened. They collectively try to tell us that's our fault. That's a fraud on its face. The proliferation of gun ownership in the last 20 years, we've shown the FBI numbers ad nauseum, 49% drop in violent crime. But they can take individual events and hype them up where you feel like it's just happened to you, using your basic human empathy, because they know you're a good person. And they sit there like psychopathic, sociopathic technocrats, punching those buttons that make you a human, that make you a good person. And so first, before I get into all this news, I want to play a clip off a YouTube video we shot about 4 hours ago where CNN was already, within a few hours of this event happening, saying, could it be right-wing extremist? And even though the narrative has now come out that it could be a Saudi Arabian al-Qaeda group, they're still on MSNBC as we speak, right before I went live, saying it's probably right-wingers. Now, I said first, the minute it happened with Richard Belzer, the actor and writer on, I said, watch, they'll try to blame it on libertarians, conservatives. And he agreed. Now, I had everybody from Glenn Beck to Salon to Media Matters to Media Light to BBC come out and attack us tonight and say, how dare Alex Jones say the government could be involved. Now Glenn Beck went further. He said, I said the government did it. When what I said was, they have done it over and over again. It's been declassified. And so we have to look at them as the prime suspects. And my point is, they do not want us as a culture to even think that, hey, who really stands to gain? Who gets to sell a police state? Who gets to take liberties? Who gets billions every month in no-bid weapons contracts? Who's been caught doing this before? So let's go to that first clip from my little YouTube report I did where a few hours after I said they'll probably blame it on us, CNN was already trying to do it. So am I a good guy for being right? No, no, no. According to Beck, I'm a bad guy. Let's go to that clip.
And Peter, what are you waiting to hear about in these coming hours?
I think the constituency inside the bomb is going to make a big difference about how we identify the person who did this or the persons who did this. Because if it's hydrogen peroxide, that points to Al-Qaeda. If it's something else, could be a right-wing extremist group or some other group.
I now turn over to Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room for the latest on it.
All right, folks. I went on the radio today, hours before this happened. It's on record, the 15th of April, and I said I can see all the scripting with the TV shows, the movies, where it's the right wing. And again, I'm just marveling here tonight, watching my crew who are with their families at home, and I'm not kissing their butt because they're even asking for it. I just want to say I appreciate the crew, and I appreciate you, the listeners and viewers out there, because, you know, my dad was here picking up my son tonight because he was here with me all day to take him home to my wife. And I just looked at my dad and my son walking away, the generation before me, the generation after me, thinking about how they're just little souls like myself who just want a future. And, you know, it's a fact. It's declassified that our government created Al-Qaeda and is running them in Libya and Syria and gave them heat-seeking missiles. And how dare Salon, Media Matters, BBC, Mediaite, and Glenn Beck, and he was the worst, even though I've done an olive branch, to say, how dare unpatriotic Alex Jones say the government did it. I said criminal global mafias are funding terrorists and mentally ill people, and I'm going to show the documents and articles on that, and that who stands to gain if they call for taking our liberties because of this, you know it's staged. And I've been saying soft target attacks are coming because they're teaching police veterans will bomb every police department in America and public events with IEDs. With no proof, and training and saying Christians and gun owners are not the threat. You know, Al-Qaeda is not the threat. The Christians and gun owners are. I had a Freudian slip. We are not the threat. Al-Qaeda, the globalist control system, is. And again, statistically, hundreds of thousands die from bad drug interactions and flesh-eating bacteria a year in the U.S. alone. Why is it so scary? Well, they emotionalize it. They show a guy with his leg blown off. And they create this fear. Hey, we better have Army at every stoplight. We better have checkpoints and body scanners to go in any store because the terrorist hit. This is how an oligarchy takes control of a society. This has been declassified that our government and NATO staged more than 200 terror attacks from the 1960s to 1981 in Europe to blame their political enemies. And they just hope you don't go look it up. Now, let's go over first, before I get into the bombing itself. And again, there's maybe a 5% chance out of 100 that this could be real Muslim terrorists, or I guess there could be some domestic group freaked out that would go stage this. To be clear, I've never seen an Easter bunny, but some say it's real. To be clear, I've never seen Santa Claus. Some say it's real. Never seen a unicorn. Some say it's real. Now, I don't think it exists, but it may. Same thing with domestic terror groups. I mean, I've interviewed the cops and the people that saw the feds plant the bombs in Oklahoma City. You saw them stage Fast and Furious. Folks, they staged Aurora. They staged Sandy Hook. The evidence is just overwhelming. And that's why I'm so desperate and freaked out. This is not fun. You know, getting up here telling you this. Somebody's got to tell you the truth. Somebody's got to stand against these people. Somebody's got to do it. And I just hope everybody that is watching out there that serves the system, who thinks they're going to get away with all this, I hope you understand that you're not going to get away with this. You get rid of our checks and balances, our protections, you're going to lose yours as well. and you want to throw your children out in the cold, you think you're cold-blooded, you think you're a winner, doing stuff like this, you're not. Now, that said, they were running drills. I haven't even gotten to that yet. They were running drills at the exact time it happened with loudspeakers saying, don't worry, never mind, it's only a drill. It's one thing to have bomb dogs out, you know, to add to the atmosphere of the police state and, hey, you need the government. But it's another thing to have them announcing, hey, this is just a drill, don't worry. And then right where the dogs are, 10 minutes later, bombs go off. So we're going to get into all of that, but I think it's important to always start with history because those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And again, we're live at 7:35 Central here on InfoWars Nightly News for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. And if you are watching, Infowars.com/listen has the free video streams right there for everybody. The articles are up on Infowars.com, and they want to, hour one, have their official story out. We know who the prime suspects are. We know the history of this type of stuff, and we understand what's happening. And so we're here risking our lives, myself, number one, because there is no future if we let a criminal oligarchy continue to fund terror attacks or allow terror attacks to take place so they can pose as saviors and take our rights. But document cam, please. I want to, before I get into the latest news, I want to show you, you know, I just played that clip of them saying right-wing extremist. And again, they may end up blaming it on Iran, too. I mean, they're getting ready to hit Iran, as you know. And I'm not defending Iran. I don't live in Iran. But, I mean, it's on record. False flags have been done against Iran. Our government overthrew the Iranian government by staging terror attacks in Operation Ajax in 1953 that they blamed on the government. They attacked Muslim mosque and said that the kind of quasi-secular leader, Mohammad Mossadegh, had done it. Kermit Roosevelt, CIA, MI6. See, this is all on record, but they just want to say conspiracy theory. Let's go to this. Alex Jones, Boston explosion, a government conspiracy. The fringe see a false flag that can be blamed on the Tea Party and expand TSA's reach when they're already, they got troops out at kite festivals here in Austin now for Al-Qaeda. Here's another one. Alex Jones declares Boston a false flag operation, FBI behind every domestic terror plot. I'm going to show you the New York Times saying that. The last 100 big plots they've had the last decade were all mentally ill people or purely made-up events, okay? Here's the blaze. With absolutely no evidence, even though we've got history, you know, like if somebody's robbed a bank 10 times and then the same MO matches, they're a prime suspect. With no evidence, Alex Jones calls Boston Marathon explosions false flag operation conducted by government. No, my tweet that Watson or whoever put it out with a typo in it said, don't that the FBI, said don't doubt, I guess, has been behind virtually every domestic terror plot in U.S. history, the New York Times reported, and then a link to the New York Times. So there's all this implication. Army training manual lists evangelical Catholics as extremists. Big sis coordinating gun confiscations. Now look at this. CNN national security analyst warns of right-wing extremists behind Boston bombings. That's Peter Bergen, big insider globalist. So there they are, saying exactly what I said they would say. And am I good for being right? No, I'm a piece of crap, according to all these White House groups. And Glenn Beck, who the media promotes, the establishment White House-run media. They promote him by demonizing him. Growing threat of right-wing extremism and violence. I mean, just constant. They're going to attack. There's nothing you can do. On and on and on. Now, let me show you this. This is the New York Times, April 2012, a year ago. Terrorist plots hatched by the FBI. And it goes on to say they manufactured all the recent terror attacks with mentally ill patsies. Okay, that's what we were linking to. That's what we were covering. That's what we were talking about. Okay? Now, Glenn Beck acts like, with no evidence, I'm saying this. You want evidence? Again, they don't want you to ever think that Hitler could have staged terror attacks on his own military bases to launch World War II in Operation Gleiwitz under Operation Himmler. That's declassified Nuremberg trials. They attack their own bases and blame it on the Poles. They don't want you to know Vietnam was launched with a staged Gulf of Tonkin, now declassified as staged by our government attacks on our own ships. They don't want you to know about Ajax, Northwoods, Gladio. No, they just want to say, there's Alex Jones, there's the bad man, because I don't like a bunch of foreign banks running our intelligence agencies, staging terror attacks so they can create a monopoly society and overthrow our free republic and our free market. I don't like it when they say the new threat is gun-owning, returning veterans and conservatives and libertarians, total creepville. And the state police come out last week in Oklahoma and Colorado and say, first Colorado, and say, we've been told to prepare to mass arrest Christians and take their guns. I mean, this is body snatcher level stuff. This is obviously the bad guys in control in a soft coup, trying to roll out a purge of the American people. This isn't a game. Now let's go to this article. Yeah, coach, bombs. Yeah, put that back up. Bomb-sniffing dogs were at start-finish lines at drill. And people spin that and go, well, there's always dogs. No. The local news article says they were on loudspeakers saying it's only a drill. We're going to get to that after we cover this. We're going to get to that in a moment. Let's go back to this article right here. This is just history of it. This is just last week. Italian Supreme Court president blames Bilderberg for terror attack. Document says secretive group was involved in strategy of tension. They've had their former president, their former CIA director, their former prime minister come out and say, and they've released a lot of this in the news, the Bilderberg, this private mafia, this banker mafia, stages terror attacks in Italy and Europe every time we try to get our sovereignty back. They do it and blame their political enemies. Okay? Here's another one. President Hamid Karzai thinks U.S. could be behind the latest Taliban bombings as a pretext to stay in the country. He goes on to say the U.S. created al-Qaeda. Well, that's just a known fact. There's Operation Gladio and the NATO option. Hundreds of staged bombings all over Europe. Okay, look it up, to blame their political enemies. U.S. accused of colluding with Taliban in Afghanistan as President Karzai hijacks Hagel visit. Afghanistan, Karzai blasts U.S. marring Hagel visit, Reuters. And it goes on to say the U.S. staged the events with their al-Qaeda forces. The bombs set off yesterday in the name of the Taliban were in the service of Americans to keep foreigners longer in Afghanistan. Of course, trillions every few years. And it's not the U.S., it's global crime syndicates in control of our country. Now, let's go on to this next stack of news. Here's what Marcos was just showing you on screen. coach, bomb-sniffing dogs were at start and finish lines. People say, well, that's what happens now in the security theater. No. They kept making announcements on the loudspeaker that it was just a drill, just like 9/11, just like Aurora. And there was nothing to worry about, he said. And then now, in fact, I gave this to David when they were on. I forgot to bring it back over here. I need to get it from him. Local news is reporting that there were people there the day before saying, don't be here, you're going to get bombed. Because this stuff gets leaked, just like 9/11. Local news is reporting that people were going, don't sign up for this, they're going to bomb you. That's in local news. And again, if they were running a drill and they weren't staging it, they would normally say, oh, we were there, trying to stop it, what heroes. They had troops there digging people out of the wreckage. You know, all of this is a giant photo op. And it gets worse. One of the biggest pieces of news is Rob Dew has had public arguments in front of me on the phone and via text messages with his wife's brother, who is in domestic defense intelligence operations. We'll just leave it at that. And, I mean, it's such a huge thing. It's like having somebody that works at Walmart in your family. I mean, it's just millions of people involved in this spy network. And, you know, he sends him like, here's the photo of bin Laden. See, it's real. And it's the fake bin Laden put out with the Daily Mail. And we send him back the message going, no, that's the fake one. No, I'm not going to look at it. I saw something else. Because they give them the fake ones as well. People in intelligence are even more brainwashed than those without it. He was running in the Army team, the official Army team, brought in by an Army truck. He's a marathon champion. I mean, Dew's been with him on vacation when he runs, gets up at 3 a.m. and runs 20 miles before breakfast. They come to the line a few minutes before the bombing, and they say, get out of line. You're sick. You're going to the hospital. And he goes, what? And they go, that's an order. And they take him out of the line. I guess friends took care of him, huh? I mean, this is just off the chart, and Dew has already talked about it. And Dew, you were in a band with Joe Stack that flew his plane into the into the IRS building. I mean, this is crazy. You want to come over here and talk? Hey, have you finally gotten more intel on what happened with your brother-in-law?
I have not. They haven't heard from him yet. Apparently, he's at the hospital, and his wife is on his way to meet up with him. And that's the last that I've heard. But with the Joe Stack thing, it was my neighbor's band, and I would go sit in. But, yeah, I knew Joe Stack, which is pretty weird.
Oh, we released the video, with you playing with him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, have I not every day been, and then privately this morning I was freaking out. They're going to do something today.
Oh, yeah.
The crew's like, how the hell? I could see it all. I could feel it.
Yeah.
Because it's not just these dead people.
And I can tell you're stressed, too, because your voice is definitely, like, cracking more. I mean, this is definitely weighing on you right now. I can tell.
Well, because they're going to do it all over. If this beta test works, they're going to go full bore, declare us all terrorists. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's the authoritarian takeover of America, man.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because they can't have us free when they bring in the world government.
Right.
I mean, what do you think? What are your points? I'm going to get into this other news.
I think the biggest thing is, well, this is interesting, too. The Boston runners were warned. That coach just getting on there and saying, this other article, bomb-sniffing dogs were there.
Yeah, but that's not even the issue. They kept making announcements on the loudspeaker that it was just a drill. The Madrid bombing, 7/7 in London, every event, Rob.
Yeah.
Every event.
There's always a drill. It's always...
Because if people say, why does that matter? Because they cover the funding in the drill, and it's compartmentalized.
Right.
If people catch him, they say it's a drill like Putin
Well, and then
did.
they get some guy, drug him up, or they plan him like the FBI's been caught doing, and we showed that article, too.
Well, look at this coming out. Boston runners were warned, and this is being reported in the local news, that people were walking around the day before saying, you're going to die if you're part of this. Because this stuff leaks. People always say, well, if something like this happened, it would come out, people would speak. They always do.
Yeah, it just gets buried. It always gets buried in the back of the news.
And again, we now have TSA checkpoints where we live. They now have Army at public events.
Well, this is a big excuse to do this. I mean, that's the, there was bombings at the Boston Marathon. We got to have TSA.
They want to control travel because they're going to do such horrible stuff, taking the pension funds and stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to want to keep people on watch lists out of the central city.
Right.
Because they know people are going to be so mad when your neighbor disappears, your kid disappears, that you're going to go on a vendetta against government.
Right.
And they're already telling the bureaucrats, you're going to be all right, we're going to take care of you. I've talked to police all over the country. You know, when they got the tanks in East St. Louis protecting the city council, they've told them, don't worry, during this time, we'll protect you.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a takeover. This is Vichy France being taken over by the Nazis.
And it's conditioning, because the people that they interviewed in St. Louis were saying, I feel safer that they're around. I feel safer. I think crime's going to drop.
You know what I want to air?
Begging for it.
I want to air your report tonight. Remember I told you this morning?
Yeah.
On the nightly news, we're going to talk about martial law, but I want to air your report about troops trained to kill gun owners.
All right.
I want to play that before we go back to the guys to take phone calls.
Okay. I'll go.
Thanks, buddy. Good job. And I know I appreciate you working so hard, dude. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying. You know, I don't even need to sit here and convince people about this. You've seen every drama, every sitcom, every show, Pillsbury ads where the TSA gropes you. The bad guys are conservative libertarians, gun owners. They're going to attack. They work with Al-Qaeda. Just asinine stuff. And now this happens. And it's photo finish, Boston Marathon. They either wound up some real extremist and let them do it, like the New York Times reports, where the feds cooked the bomb, trained the drivers in the World Trade Center bombing back in the early 90s. Or they stage the whole deal and we'll burn a patsy. No Tea Party person would work with Al-Qaeda like they're trying to claim. And Saudi Arabia, this is the most important point, Saudi Arabia and the West are like this. I mean, they are peas in a pod. They are absolutely together on this thing. And our government is running Al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria. I declared Obama the head of Al-Qaeda worldwide last month. I mean, he is. I mean, our government, but it's so off the script. It's like, yeah, it's in the LA Times. Our government runs Al-Qaeda and they're ethnically cleansing Christians in Syria. I mean, chopping their heads off, you name it. It's like, oh, well, they're nobody. Yeah, chopping their heads off. But, oh, the Boston Marathon, let's personalize it. And then it's okay to get sad. And everybody's like, on our Patriots Day, they're on the news going, America got hit on Patriots Day, but we're getting behind the government now to do what it takes to keep America successful. I mean, this is nothing but the occupational government. Bottom line, you've seen all the scripting. You've seen the buildup. You've seen us tell you it's coming. And it's just thoroughly disgusting. Let's go back over some of these articles. coach, bomb-sniffing dogs were at start-finish lines for drill. And people are like, well, they already got dogs. Again, making announcements on the loudspeaker that it was just a drill. There was nothing. Oh, we have the announcements on video? Oh, my God. Let's play those video clips right now. Unbelievable. We have the announcements. We're doing all this live, so we'll get those clips. I was told we had that, but, you know, these stupid computers. But that's all up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And again, folks, I don't want to risk my life for them to win. I wouldn't be risking my life if I didn't think we could get out of this. I mean, I am willing to be set up or destroyed just so our future isn't run by whoever will stage terror attacks and whoever runs the media and the military-industrial complex run by foreign banks stages an attack, and then all of the, you know, prostitute media goes along with it, and it just goes on and on. Do we have that clip? Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's the coach talking about it. Let's go ahead and play it then.
At the start line this morning, they had bomb spotters on the roofs of the building, and they had bomb-sniffing dogs coming up and down at the start line. And Melanie said there was bomb-sniffing dogs at the finish line, but they kept making announcements saying to the participants, do not worry, this is just a training exercise. Well, evidently, I don't believe they were just having a training exercise. I think they must have known, they must have had some kind of threats or suspicions called in.
You know, I bet they had a threat. Well, they'll get to grandstand as our saviors. Again, the narrative that veterans will attack every police station in America that's been put out for 4 years is a fraud to frame the American people against this takeover. And they may be going back to the script because no one would buy that right-wingers are terrorists. They may be going back to the al-Qaeda script. They're saying it could be al-Qaeda. But again, our government runs al-Qaeda on record and puts them in Libya and Syria and gives them 10,000 heat-seeking, shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles. So none of this holds water. Here's the other articles up at Infowars.com. Eyewitnesses. Authorities announced drill before Boston explosions. UM coach thought it was odd. Bomb-sniffing dogs are at the start and finish lines. Great headline, Watson. Working until midnight tonight, your time. But the big issue is the announcements. That's unprecedented. And they said it was a drill, not security. So that's just some of the news. Here it is. Authorities ID, not servants, authorities. They're an authority, you're not. ID suspect is Saudi national in marathon bombings under guard at Boston Hospital. Well, if it turns out to be Saudi Arabian Muslims that did it, Wahhabist, let's invade Iran, the Shiite country. We invaded Iraq, the quasi-secular Ba'athist party. In fact, why don't we invade Australia? You know what? I mean, can you bring me the globe in from another office? We've got a bunch, guys. Maybe we just spin the globe, because last time they blamed Iraq and planted WMDs on them. Maybe we just spin the globe, cover our eyes, and touch it. And if it's in the middle of the Indian Ocean, we go nuke the Indian Ocean. And show film going, flying fish did it. Because, or those whales did it. Because this is the type of crap that I'm talking about here. This is the type of unmitigated garbage that we're dealing with as a society. Oh, yeah, spotters on the roofs, everything. Well, everything's a national security event. And just like Madrid, where it came out in Spain, the government did it and had to step down on 333. By the way, that was the first time I ever went on Coast to Coast AM. Was the day of the Madrid bombing. It had been set up for weeks. I'm on Coast to Coast AM for 3 hours tomorrow night. And obviously, we'll be talking about all this and a lot more, coasttocoastam.com. It's just unbelievable that stuff like this is going on. And again, you've got the former head of Italian intelligence. You've got all their Supreme Court coming out saying the West is staging these terror attacks. It is, piece of paper. It is off the charts. And we're going to play a report here by Rob Dew from last year that's had 2.5 million views, dealing with the Army manual saying they're trained to kill gun owners. I mean, folks, if you've studied military history, when the government's training the police and military that gun owners are terrorists, and the preachers need to tell them to go to the FEMA camp when it's time, and the military's training for gun confiscation, that is off-the-chart creepville. So even if they try to blame this on Saudi Arabia, they're trying to gauge things right now. The media has already tried to lump right-wing extremism, gun owners, conservatives in with Al-Qaeda by saying it'll be Al-Qaeda or it'll be right-wingers. What, it's not the Mexican mafia that's killed 60,000 people in Mexico, thousands in the U.S.? It's not even white supremacists that have killed people. It's not some other group. No, it's automatically right-wingers, which means anti-globalists, not fake right-wingers, but, you know, more libertarian types they call right-wingers, or it's Al-Qaeda. Because there's only one thing worse than Al-Qaeda, that's a returning veteran or a gun owner or grandma that we hadn't been able to kill yet. So Saudi Arabia, 15 of the 19 hijackers. NORAD stands down. Saudi Arabia, right over here, Saudi Arabia doesn't get attacked on 9/11. Iraq, 2 years later, gets invaded and blamed for it. Now they're trying to say Iran's behind Al-Qaeda when they hate them more than they hate us, the mullahs. They're Shiite. See, this is Wahhabist. This is Sunni. Not all Sunnis are bad, by the way, just the ones the globalists fund. And they've sent out of Saudi Arabia into Syria, into Libya, all over the world, into Afghanistan, Pakistan. They send the British intelligence brigades the British set up over 100 years ago, Lawrence of Arabia, into all these places to destabilize, and then our government, the globalists, bomb and attack all these countries to go after their own people. They put them in, and then they were so dumb they attack Shiites and Baathists, saying it's to stop Al-Qaeda. It's the opposite group that comes out of Saudi Arabia. So 9/11 happened, and they didn't go after Saudi Arabia, who supplied the cutouts. The globalists actually ran it. The big banks ran it. They went after Iraq. And now they're putting Al-Qaeda from Saudi Arabia in charge of Libya and Syria and and using Al-Qaeda to threaten the West. They can take our rights over here. Bombings all over Europe, bombings in the U.S., blaming it on Al-Qaeda, so they can take our rights when they actually run Al-Qaeda. Now, if it ends up being Saudi Arabia, do you think they're going to attack Saudi Arabia? No, they're not. They're going to attack Iran. And ignore the fact that our government's funding Al-Qaeda and sponsoring them out of Saudi Arabia into Syria, into other areas. So now let's do this on air. I'm going to close my eyes. Instead of attacking Iran, or they said they could start World War III, I'll just spin the wheel like they did blaming Iraq, and then we'll just attack whoever we randomly pick. Maybe this is how the Pentagon chooses people. 3 spins. Okay, Ethiopia. We will now nuke Ethiopia. That's where that came from. Doesn't matter, it came from here. Isn't that funny? I spun it 3 times, it was still close to there. And let's spin it again. You know what? Let's try it again. Let's see what happens now. Uh-oh. St. Vincent and the Grenada. Grenada did it. Attack them. Almost Venezuela. They did it. Attack. It's weird. I keep spinning this and picking globalist enemies. Let's try again. Okay. New Guinea. New Guinea is the enemy. They ran Al-Qaeda. No one but Saudi Arabia and the West. We'll attack no one. Here, let's spin it again. Oops. There you go. Here, let's try it again. We'll attack 2 places this time. Okay. New Hanover is an island. We'll attack it. And the Chagos Archipelagos oil islands. We'll nuke them. They did it. Here, let's spin it again. Anybody of the West has a history of staging terror. Saudi Arabia works with them. Let's not attack them. Let's. Uh-oh, Canada. Folks, time to nuke Canada. Right. Blame Canada. Right there, nuke them. That's northern Canada. Luckily, not too big a population right there. We'll just blow that up right there, because that's who did it. I mean, hell, CNN said so. There you go. You guys like my targeting, how I pick targets? But, okay, I got to say, Badandi, you know, Badandi's awesome, but, you know, his wife and child were up there in Rhode Island. I felt bad. A lot of these reporters that I ended up hiring came down here, and, you know, it was family stuff, families in Rhode Island, families in New Jersey. There's family stuff. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to get in the way of families. But he still does reports every week for us as a auxiliary reporter. And he does a great job. Badondi's got a lot of heart. I haven't even gotten to Dan Badondi getting on Fox, asking the police commissioner about the drills. And then I talked to Badondi before I went on air here, and I said, okay, there's another press conference. Get in and ask him about false flag. Do we have that video coming in? Yeah. All right, well, just whatever you get, just make sure they air it coming up in the next segment. And obviously, I'm very exhausted. I'm not complaining. I went to bed at midnight last night. I woke up at 4 a.m., couldn't sleep. I never used to be like that. I just have been totally freaked out. And I'm not complaining, but I am pretty tired right now, pretty punch drunk. I should have had more coffee. Last coffee I had was at about 1. And I'm going to go to sleep here in a couple hours and get up and deal with all this, because when they lock my ass up, knock on wood, I hope they don't, or kill me, I mean, I don't have any time to talk to you anymore. They say there's no rest for the wicked. I don't feel very wicked. I just want justice. I mean, I'm so sick of the obvious PR rollout for this stuff. I mean, it's so obvious. And I just want my country back. I mean, it's just the gullibility of this nation and the West is what has allowed all of this to unfold. Did Badondi get his question in? You want to come in here? Come on in here. This is very powerful. What I could do, you know, Badondi is kind of like a wild man like I am, but he's a real guy. That's what we like about him. Yeah. Tell me about Badondi.
Okay, I'm just getting this from John Bound. He just called me. He said Badondi got his question in on the press conference to the governor. It's actually the governor of Massachusetts. Asked him if it was a false flag. He said, no, next question, real quick, cut him off. And then apparently he's still asking questions. He's not shutting up. You know, he's being Badondi. You know, basically that's it. And so we're grabbing that footage. It's on Fox is where we're grabbing it right now. We'll have it up. When we go back to the other guys over on the other side, we're going to connect with them. I think we're on that.
Be honest with me. I want the listeners to realize what they're viewing. This is history. I mean,
oh, yeah, this is it. I mean, this is all the pieces apparently have come together. You know, Badondi going up northeast, you know, is all.
No, but I mean, not even that. Just the fact that I use the cheesy analogy of the trench run with X-Wings. I mean, this is it.
This is it.
I hope people sitting at home realize, I mean.
And we need your tips, too. You know, people out there scouring the internet, like when Sandy Hook happened, like all the great research that people were doing out there, putting it out on their own, not waiting for us to put it out.
Hey, it's shaking the system up.
Yeah, I mean.
Because they're targeting totally dumbed down people that buy anything. And more people just don't buy anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is just, I mean, I think it's amazing. Just the amount of research people have done on Colorado and Sandy Hook. Is just, you know. I'm
just glad that when I die, I didn't die a coward. You two do. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just that, I mean, we don't even pat ourselves on the back, though. The build-up where every show,
we got that clip.
The Liberty people are terrorists.
We got the Jakari piece where he shows just every single instance where.
Well, that's just locally, lately. Yeah, you want to play that?
Yeah, well, this is the one that has that TV show, The Following, where the guy goes, I'm a constitutional extremist.
And the top psycho's like, whoa, that's the most evil thing. I like that.
And John
he did one with a bunch of clips. Is this the little one or the big one?
This is the little one of that with a bunch of others. Because you and David Knight talked about it, and that one's up on YouTube. But then this is one that...
Yeah, Green Lantern fights the militia.
Right. It's got
Green Lantern. You know, it's like before World War II when they figured out they were going to fight the Germans. Suddenly for the year before, we're going to fight the Germans began. I mean, now it's, we're going to fight the veterans and gun owners.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay.
All the cartoon guys were fighting guys with pointed helmets in the 1940s. That was part of that build-up to that.
It's all on, well, like right before 9/11, they had the Pearl Harbor movie. Yeah. Hey, let's go ahead and go to that clip. Here it is.
The cell tower linked to your wife is near a roadside motel on Highway 31.
Typically, there's 5 to 6 agents per safe house in a designated area away from the other guests.
I'm thinking an M17 or my micro Uzi with a silencer.
You ex-military? I don't know. We're better than that.
They were both raised by militia. Well, constitutional extremists, to be accurate.
The Following, a Fox TV series starring Kevin Bacon, is the latest television program to demonize the militia. I'm Jakari Jackson with an InfoWars News Bulletin. Even though the Constitution guarantees the rights of a well-regulated militia, that has not stopped the mass media from portraying the militia in a negative light. Let's take a look at these clips where the hero fights militia antagonists.
Thursday, to save a young boy's life, Michael Weston takes on a militia.
They are locked down tight. An unknown number of heavily armed militiamen have taken over the mine.
Plan to use the salt mine as their base during the Second American Revolution, which is, they claim, imminent.
More shows still, such as the in development We Hate Paul Revere and Founding Fathers.
The real programming is happening with these shows like Founding Fathers, where the guy that's pro-gun in Texas and leading the militia, he's really Al-Qaeda, which fits into the whole narrative that, oh, it's white Al-Qaeda or gun owners are really Al-Qaeda.
InfoWars has also documented subliminal propaganda in television shows such as AMC's Breaking Bad.
One example is AMC's Breaking Bad television series, as it depicts a meth villain as a Ron Paul supporter.
And we'll end with a clip of Alex Jones warning of such propaganda in his film Road to Tyranny. I'm Jakari Jackson with an InfoWars News Bulletin.
Who was the first terrorist organization in the United States? Who? Founding Fathers. Founding Fathers. You mean Thomas Jefferson?
Look at this guy. You know, he's talking about the Founding Fathers and people that are committed. He's talking about constitutional terrorists. Before that, the cops are so conditioned, they say, who are the terrorists? Who are the first terrorists? The Founding Fathers. They all know. They all say Founding Fathers. Again, we're not trying to take credit for predicting all this. It's not hard. It's like I predict the sun comes up at 6:45 tomorrow morning. I mean, it's designed for the most dumbed-down population. I can go home tonight, turn on any drama, and it'll be, they won't take vaccines, they're child molesters, or they don't trust the government, they've murdered children, or they don't trust the government, they're racist, or they're homeschooled. Oh, and it's like, or let's laugh at Charlton Heston. He's a murderer. You know, like Jim Carrey said. It's just ham-fisted propaganda. But see, I didn't get into comic books. I got into history books and girls. But, I mean, other than kind of a mixed deal. But I know, because I started reading history books, and every page was like battles and wars and subterfuge, and this guy did this to that guy, and this secret society. I mean, Roman history, Nazis, communists. I mean, I couldn't put it down. I mean, I was like 15 and read Gulag Archipelago because it was action-packed. I mean, you know, this is a guy in a forced labor camp. And I just, by the grace of God, learned all this stuff. And now I sit here watching the exact playbook. I mean, I was reading where AP has hired North Korean propagandists to help them advise them on how to run the AP. And I saw that the other day in mainstream news. I mean, I can't even believe that. Our government hired the former head of the Stasi, the worst police state in human history up until the time, the East German Stasi, Marcus Wolf, to set up Homeland Security. I mean, obviously the government's super bad when they teach state police nationwide, the Christians are terrorists. We're going to have to arrest them en masse. And here's the Army manual for forced labor camps. I mean, obviously, whoa, they're going to stage something. They've done it before. We've got to do something. And it's just creepy to know now that it's not just White House-run groups like Media Matters and BBC Connected that are demonizing me right now, but Glenn Beck again. And it just is really despicable. I've covered a lot of this news. I want to throw it back for 30 minutes to Jakari Jackson and to David Knight and the rest of the great crew that's working so hard. We got to shut this down in the next hour so everybody can get back, get some sleep. We have a limited crew. We're not CNN or Fox News or MSNBC funded by big corporate donors and tax money and stuff like MSNBC especially. We're funded by viewers like you. Please don't forget, we're sending free streams out of all this. The video is very expensive. Be sure and support InfoWarsStore.com. Get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership. Buy the books, the videos. Support us so we can be strong and do more of this. That's always essential. Buy your war bonds. But in a few minutes, we'll go to this. Then when I come back, we'll have the new clips of Dan Bidandi talking to the governor of Massachusetts about false flags and what happened in the aftermath of that. Great job, Dan. And I will get to the other newscast and things. But are they ready to make the switch to the other studio? Yeah, why don't you just play my video intro where they try to blame right-wingers? Remember that one? Or just pick something. The key to being live is, let's just pick something and go with it here. Just whatever. We'll go ahead and go to the other. Yeah, this is the earlier Dan Bidandi footage where he got into the press conference and brought up the drills with myself and Leanne McAdoo and Rob Dew, and then we'll go to the other crew for 30 minutes, and I'll come back with final points and final clips. Let's go to that.
Hey guys, Leanne McAdoo here at the Austin, Texas InfoWars News Center. Our East Coast reporter Dan Bidandi is on the scene, and he was able to get in this question at the news conference.
We are looking at all of that right now. That's one of the investigative steps that we're taking.
They said they were doing drills this morning for the same exact thing that happened on BostonPost.com. Now, was you guys given any warning ahead of time of this taking place?
As I said earlier, there was no specific intelligence. We certainly increase posture around a big event like this. All of those things happened in preparation for this event, but there was no specific intelligence that anything was going to happen.
Now, we've got that story on our Infowars.com website, and you can check it out, follow up with more.
Absolutely, folks. It's all breaking there, and a live feed is at Infowars.com/listen. A live video feed is there for everyone with Jakari Jackson, David Knight, myself, and the rest of the crew, Rob Dew, John Bound, the entire crew here, Adon Salazar, Kurt Nimmo. They're all there right now covering all of this, and Leanne McAdoo is also on top of it as well. So this is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen, because so many of these past events have been false flags. We've got to study this and see if it is, because they want to have this total rollout of the police state, an excuse to carry that out. Leanne, what else are you working on?
Well, I've got some stories coming up about the drone strikes. Obama had just flat out lied about how many people had been struck with the drones. Maybe that's why we got this, to distract people. So. All
right, great job, dude. What else are you working on?
Well, I'm going to try to follow up and see what happened with my brother-in-law, who was actually running in the marathon.
For the Army.
For the Army.
And he's in intelligence. Tell folks what happened with him.
Right, and apparently he got pulled out early of the race. They said he was dehydrated. So I'm trying to get a hold of him right now. I've been throwing texts back and forth.
You got to go to the hospital. They came to him.
Right. They pulled him out of the race, sent him to the hospital, said he was dehydrated. And
wasn't that nice? In fact, Leanne, search engine real quick. Mayor Willie Brown got warning not to fly on 9/11.
Right.
It's the second link, San Francisco Chronicle.
Yeah, Condoleezza Rice actually warned and gave him a phone call, personal phone call, which he said he didn't make much, didn't think much of it then. You know, when the Secretary of the National Security calls you and tells you not to fly, I guess it's not a big deal, you know. So there you go. And now we also have reports. The U of M coach, the cross-country coach, said that
they had loudspeakers. Yeah, that's up on Infowars.com.
Right.
They had loudspeakers on there openly announcing, hey, it's just a drill, don't worry about the dogs. And then you can also go to, again, yeah, that's a saved version of it. Willie Brown got low-key warning not to travel. But if you actually go back, and good job finding that live here on the fly. We're basically taping this live. There it is, San Francisco Chronicle. Boom. Willie Brown got low-key early warning about air travel. And again, the Joint Chiefs of Staff are supposed to fly to New York, and we're told not to. I mean, this is incredible. And again, if your brother or your brother-in-law, your wife's brother, again, you say he's a great marathon guy.
Yeah, he's in
20 miles for breakfast, you name it. Boom, this happens. Very suspicious. We need to ask him, were you really, quote, sick? Why'd they pull you out?
Right.
So you're getting the second hand through your wife who talked to him. All right, well, that's it for this report. Great job to the entire crew. And great job doing the work you're doing, and great job to all the listeners getting us the tips. Follow us at Twitter at @RealAlexJones, ladies and gentlemen. The investigation continues, because you better believe they're not going to let this crisis go to waste.
All right, so we're back here live. This is David Knight here with Jakari and we're going to be taking some of your calls at 877-789-ALEX. That's 877-789-2593. Now, you just saw a report from Dan Bidandi from earlier today when he talked to the mayor and the police chief.
But we've got an update to that. Dan was just able to talk to the governor. We got Dan on the line right now. Dan, are you there?
Hey, Dave, how you doing, man?
Doing good. What's up?
I'm like trying to race back to my car. I got like a mile and a half to go here.
So you're out of breath there. You're running your own marathon today, right?
Oh, yeah. It's called the Liberty Marathon, InfoWars Marathon of Truth.
Yeah. Okay, so Dan, you got a chance to get a question to the governor?
Oh, absolutely. I asked him that question earlier, you know, about the drills, what they had to do with it. Of course, he said that's for routine. You know, it's kind of weird that they were doing the same kind of drills, just like, you know, all the other terror attacks, like 9/11. They happen to be, seem to be doing drills of the same thing. And the same thing happened today, as we've seen. And, you know, today, this time I asked the governor and the FBI, why were loudspeakers telling the people that to stay calm minutes before the bomb went off? Then I asked him if this is another stage false flag to rob our civil liberties. And, of course, the governor just says no. Then I asked the question again. It's like, why were people told prior to the bomb going off? Why were people told prior to the bomb going off to stay calm? And they avoided the question, walked right off the stage. The spokeswoman said that's enough questions, and off they went.
So they shut you up, basically, right?
They shut me up. They ended the press conference right there, and I got the look of death by several ATF agents, FBI agents. So I grabbed my camera equipment, and I jetted out of there.
Wow. Okay, so Dan, about where were you in the question order? You said they ended the questions immediately after you asked one. About how far in line were you to get your question in?
There was no particular order. It's like basically you speak up or lose out. And me use my big mouth I have. But like I had to basically speak up. You know, it's a you snooze, you lose, so to speak.
That's right. That's right. So about how far had they been going in the press conference before you got a chance to speak?
Right after, I think I was the first question, believe it or not.
Really?
Because I knew, you know, the order of the speakers, as we were told. And right after that, bam, I had him with the question before anybody else could. And, you know, of course, you know, just a no. You know, then I asked him, you know, the first part of the question again, and it was totally avoided. And I got the look of death by everybody.
So let me get this clear. You were the first question, and then they basically cut it off and then ended the press conference?
No, the first question I asked him, and when the governor said no, he went out with more questions.
Okay.
So I want to answer my, you know, first part of my question. Why were people told to remain calm moments before the bombs exploded? The spokeswoman got up on, they didn't say not one word. The spokeswoman got up on the coordinator, whoever she was, got up on the stage and said the press conference is over.
Wow.
She wrote.
Okay. So since we last talked to you, have you found out any new information? Have you found out anything from the runners or anybody else out on the scene?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of the runners, and there was a, you know, practically the same story with everybody. They either seen or heard it. You know, the first explosion, you know, they thought it was like, you know, think nothing of it. You know, there was some kind of a firework or whatever. But when the second one occurred, that's when everybody knew, hey, this ain't normal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So as far as the stricter movement, we heard that the police or military had been blocking off the streets. Have you seen any increase in that?
Yep. Well, they got the whole perimeter secured, and heading out to my car now. So probably waiting to see some checkpoints and whatnot. But you know, it's like right now they got still, you know, the military and police walking around checking little alleyways and cars in the city and everything. And the governor said that the FBI now has jurisdiction over this, and the FBI spokesman got on the podium to tell everybody we have jurisdiction, and for the next few days there's going to be constant surveillance, and it's tomorrow's business day is going to be canceled. So look for a huge police state in Boston, Massachusetts.
So did you get this recorded on your camera, or have you captured that, or are we dependent on feeds?
I got everything on video.
Oh, okay, great. So we get some first-person camera views, because I believe it was Fox News they showed a second ago when you had a chance to ask your question to the police chief. So we're definitely looking forward to seeing your videos of the encounter.
Well, great job there, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm almost to my car, I think. Well, yeah, it's crazy over here. And I've been talking to different people, you know, from all the countries. There's people from Australia that came here, Mexico, to participate in the marathon. And they're running. Next thing they heard a little boom, or some didn't even hear a boom. And they were told, you know, they stopped right there, told that the race is over. And you know, they were just puzzled what was going on. But I mean, like, the main reaction of people is like terrorism. You know, people have that fear of Colin's going to bomb us, or, you know. So the stage from 9/11's already been set into the mentality of the typical person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we've been hearing for the last 12 years that the only way that we're going to be safe is if we give up all of our freedoms and liberties and we shred the Constitution, because, you know, it's kind of outdated anyway, that whole idea of being free, you know.
It was like that right away. I mean, like, any store you went into, any hotel, you had police with assault weapons, you know, the ones that are trying to ban for you on Maddox, searching people's bags, the purses. And they were searching us too, the press, and you know they questioned me, you know, because I wasn't a mainstream reporter, but but they told me the press is the press, it's the First Amendment, and you know I got through, thank God, but it's just like it turned towards the tolerant police state already. I had police screaming at me and told me you can't go over there, and you know it's just ridiculous.
Well, here's something for you to ask them, Dan. Next time you get a chance to get in the press conference, they had. Whether it was a drill or whether it was a search or whatever they were doing, they had a massive amount of police with bomb-sniffing dogs and everything else there, but they didn't find anything. So you might ask them about that, you know, and
Well, absolutely, yeah. If that drill, you know, if they were doing their job in that drill, they would have found something. If that was, you know, it just shows that possibility could just be another false flag. And most of all, because you see TSA at the street corners of here in Boston, Massachusetts. You know, going to a hotel, go to convenience stores to buy a gallon of milk. You know, you're getting groped and searched down because we're looking for bombs in trash barrels.
Right. Well, we got a couple of callers here we want to go to. Thanks, Dan. You've done a great job up there. Keep searching around. We know you'll ferret out something.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep.
All right. So if we're ready for our calls, we'll go to Otter in Mass.
Oh, you cut out for a second there.
How you doing?
Oh, good. Yourself?
Doing good.
Go ahead.
All right. So, a bunch of points to make real quick. Did you see the footage pre-blast where an elderly gentleman, it appears at the distance, spasms and crumples to the ground?
I saw somebody falling.
That's the moment. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just saying I saw somebody fall. I wasn't exactly sure who it was.
Was he a runner? It looked like he was a runner, and I wasn't sure if that was just before the blast or if it was part of the blast. You think it was just before the blast, is what you're saying?
Yes, the blast occurred in vectored projectile low level. It was...
Hey, caller, I'm going to put you on hold real quick because I'm going to put the caller on hold. I ran over here from the other side because I've seen the Badandi press conference footage now, and they thought it was already over here a while back ago. This happened like 30 minutes ago. And I wanted to commend Dan Badandi, Infowars.com reporter. He took over the press conference with false flag and why were they already running a drill? And the governor looked completely freaked out, and they shut the press conference down because I was ignorant about who Duval Patrick was. I've heard the name, but I was like, who's that black guy that looks totally freaked out and pissed off? They go, that's the governor. And he's like totally looking shifty-eyed. And so was everybody else up there. But like he kind of, I noticed he kind of directs, and then they shut it down. The governor ordered the press conference shut down over this. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't really know who the governor of Massachusetts was. I know who most governors are, but I hadn't kept track of it. I knew the name.
Oh, we have to see that. Do we have that where we can punch up the video?
Yeah, I'm sorry. They had the callers faded up in here so I could hear the callers talking. But I don't know if we have it. I mean, I was just watching it on DVR in the other office. Well, I mean, listen, online, just it's kind of like a crazy game in here to get all the info. If you go online, I'll guarantee you on the news channels, they have a recording of the last governor's press conference. But it's not a big deal. You guys are overworked. It's late at night. I'm going to let you guys take about 10 more calls. I'm going to put some bookends on this. Dude's trying to capture the Badandi footage right now, but it was on CNN. Yeah, you name it. We had it on CNN and Fox back there on the monitors, and it was just the most amazing thing whenever it cuts to Piers Morgan going, well, now that's ending shortly. And it was like Badandi going, false flag stays and take our liberties. And then you need to answer why there was a drill. And when this happens in other events, you just hear him going. And then they all look like They're on the hot seat and they want it to stop.
Yeah,
he did a great job of planting the info. He did a great job of planting the InfoWars flag up on the podium there. You could see it before the press conference. He had it up there.
And the point is, imagine if we have thousands of other info warriors. Folks, just go to these events. Just take over. The New World Order counts on a bunch of sheep. Just believe in whatever they say. And look, bottom line, there's no way Tea Parties would stage an event like this ever. I mean, that's just not in their making. There's no way they could provocateur a domestic group. They stage other stuff. And there's no way Al-Qaeda is working without U.S. or globalist authorization. Our government runs Al-Qaeda worldwide. This is a staged event one way or another. They may have a mentally ill patsy, as the New York Times reported. That's the only way it could be quasi-real. But regardless, keep your hands off my rights. Don't use this to scare me into submission. Stick your hands down my pants. All right, let's go back to you guys.
All right. Thanks. That was Alex Jones, and we'll be back in the other studio with him in a second. So you heard callers. Alex wants to get to these calls pretty quick. So, Otter, make your final point, please.
Okay. Okay, the dogs, come on. They're not going to be bomb-sniffing dogs if they're bombs sitting right there. I know people that work in Mass General. They had friends that were in the tents there at the finish line. They're okay. At least that 3 to 6 of them that we know of. And we've been able to talk with them. We've been able to get through. The blast was low. The blast was directional. It was perpendicular, going straight out across the street. A lot of smoke. There's all these keynotes that are specific to the type of blast and what the implement was. Kind of put money on the fact that it's a anti-personnel mine. It just goes bam, right out, and it stays at like waist level. A lot of people sitting there. You look at all the injuries. You look at people with legs blown off. Look at the people that were sitting and how they were injured. 3-4 feet above the ground. Maybe as it got across the street, it got a little higher. Not very many windows blown out. You know, Oklahoma City, of course, we know what it really was, but supposedly if it was blown from outside, you're supposed to see some damage on the building behind it, or it's going to be a directional blast because there's a wall, a building behind it. When you blow something up, it goes all directions, you know? You know, it's, you look at an A-bomb going off, you know, you got a donut. This was not that. Look at that. It is the Boston Globe footage, and it is directional, and it is low, and it is specific. It is a device that you will be able to figure out.
Good point.
So we'll let it go at that. We've heard that the Mass General bomb was found in the parking garage. Had people there working that I know today in there, and that they've now confirmed and fed to us here that it was in the parking garage. And we had heard rumor of a third blast in Boston. Haven't heard anybody talking about that for the last couple hours, so I don't know about that. But
okay, we'll definitely try to stay on top of that and look at the footage as it develops, but we have to move quick. Thank you for your call, Otter. Now we'll go to Harry in Kentucky.
Well, Harry, you there?
Hey. Yes, I'm there. Thanks, David and Jakari. I got a question and a concern. My question is the reason this attack, this supposedly terrorist attack happened is because DHS has made all the preparations and prepared for the next phase of their dark plans?
Well, you always have a group that's going to capitalize on the event, regardless if they were prepared for it or not. I do believe, regardless if this was a lone attack or if it was something that's orchestrated as a false flag, I do believe that they are ready for it, regardless of whether they were planning for this to happen on this particular day or not, or they were just waiting for, the, quote, good crisis to come around. I definitely believe they're going to capitalize this to push the TSA agenda and such as that.
Yeah, they won't let a crisis go to waste. I mean, look at what they did with Hurricane Katrina, right? That was not, that was not a government operation, but they used it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very well, very well. Yeah. And they pushed the agenda of you need your government to survive, even though, they let the people in the Superdome almost die of thirst. They wouldn't let the water get in and, wouldn't let people to be self-sufficient. Yeah. But we have to jump quick. Thank you for your call, sir. We'll move now to Michelle in Wyoming.
Mitchell?
Oh, Mitchell. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. I just had a question. I was wondering if while all our heads are turned focusing on this event, if there's any legislation on the table right now, they might be trying to push through like CISPA or more gun control. I heard there's a gun control initiative that made it through like the House, but needs to go through the Senate. And if it does that, we have to depend on Obama to veto it. So I was just wondering what you guys know about that.
Well, they need some help to get it through the House because it's predominantly Republican, and the Republicans have much more reliance on gun owners to get elected than the Democrats do. So certainly this is something that's going to help them because it's going to let them make the case that it's a scary world out there, and you got to give up your freedoms, and you got to let the government protect you, even though they had all these bomb-sniffing dogs there right at the finish line and a gazillion cameras, and they couldn't see and they couldn't find this bomb. They want us to believe that they're going to be able to protect us if we surrender our freedoms to them.
Exactly. And as far as the cameras are concerned, I definitely keep my eye on YouTube and other blog-type sites to get alternative views as far as footage is concerned. But you're concerned, I'm very much concerned with the same thing you said about them trying to push through some type of legislation, something we may not know about on the surface right now that may come out, next week, well, you guys are worried about that bombing, we did X, Y, and Z.
And there's also all this turmoil in the financial markets on currencies that are set up as competition to the central bank's fiat currencies. Bitcoin first, then gold and silver the last 2 days or whatever, that's been really dropping precipitously. So both of those things crashing right at this time. So, yeah, it bears watching. There might be some kind of financial event that's coming down the pike. We'll go next to Peter in Massachusetts. Peter, are you there?
Hello. One question. Why aren't you talking about the JFK library fire and the archives there that may have been damaged, destroyed, or lost?
Yes, there was a explosion at the JFK library. Can you fill us in on some of those details, sir?
Well, I'm just looking at what I've seen on TV, and I'm looking at RT's webpage here. No conclusive evidence linking Boston JFK library fire to marathon blasts. But I wonder about that. And you guys are info warriors, so maybe you can run this down. I can read off the website here. Police say there is no evidence yet linking the Boston Marathon explosions to a fire at the JFK library shortly after, like minutes after. Almost at the same time, it appears. Earlier, 2 devices exploded at the event's finish line. They go on about the marathon. Boston Police Commissioner says at 4:30 p.m. the library incident was in all likelihood not related to the marathon explosions. There were no deaths or injuries in the library incident. Employees and journalists were not allowed to approach the building. Now, the picture I'm looking at is the whole front of the building.
Do you have an article or a headline you can direct us to, sir?
RT website, USART.com, USA Library -blast -police -Boston -914. No conclusive evidence linking Boston JFK library fire to marathon blasts.
Okay. Well, that's something, we just had, as this all broke, Alex was talking to Richard Belzer, and Richard just wrote a book about the JFK assassination and the aftermath of it called Hit List, and how many people died and the astronomical improbability of that many people connected with it dying in that period of time, and so especially the way that they died. So certainly that is something that is suspicious, and I'm sure we'll have Richard Belzer on.
I'm wondering if the marathon blasts were a diversion.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thought, and like I said, all this news is new to us today, and as the weeks and days develop, we'll have more time to get into it. Definitely appreciate your call, sir. We'll move now to Chris in Michigan.
Or was that Chris in Michigan? About Jason in... Oh, sorry. Is this Chris?
Yeah, this is.
Okay, go ahead. Chris.
On Brian Williams today, he was doing a report and asked the police chief or someone involved in the investigation why they were told to turn their cell phones off shortly before the blast had happened.
Really?
And yeah, I haven't heard you guys talk about that at all today.
Do you have a source on that?
It would be Brian Williams, his news source.
Brian Williams.
His news show.
Okay.
And the other thing I had to say is, like back in the 60s and when MLK was, doing his speeches and stuff, everyone was like band together. And I just think people need to do that now. It doesn't matter if you're black or white or Arab or whatever. Like, we all need to like get together and like, Alex Jones is doing the perfect job of making this happen. But, we need to look at those people that were fighting for civil rights, because this is all that this is what that is. It's a civil rights movement, really, at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
for justice and for us to not, have to be groped everywhere we go and
That's right.
all of that. I mean,
That's right.
I'm surprised during Black History Month, no one, combined InfoWars with that movement and just started a new, spring of action with that.
Even if you believe the government's official narrative about all of this, you accept it, whatever it is, can't people see that this is going to be used to take our civil liberties? And like you said, it is a civil liberties issue, and I just wish people could broaden this out. So many times we see people, it seems to me like the two issues on either side of this that are really kind of on the cutting edge of people taking back power at the state level are the gun issue, of course, and also the marijuana legalization issue. Both of those are asserting the division of power between the federal government and the states and saying we have a legitimate right to make these determinations at our level. And they don't have constitutional authority to prohibit these things. It took a constitutional amendment to prohibit alcohol, and they haven't passed one to prohibit marijuana or any of these other things. But these two groups are so disparate from each other, and they cannot, because of their cultural differences, they can't come together and see the broader civil liberties issues. And occasionally you'll get like the ACLU to come in, and they had some issues at the very beginning of this gun registration legislations coming out. They had issues with it. But it's very rare that you see that kind of common cause. Both the left and the right get so caught up in this left-right paradigm that's been created by the government and the media that they basically anathematize the other side to where they don't want the other side to have freedom in something that they don't understand or they're afraid of. But
right.
Absolutely.
And to the caller's other point, we say it here all the time. If there's an issue that you think should be expressed, don't wait for us to cover. If you think,
Absolutely.
XYZ needs to be covered, then cover it yourself. If you can send us an email, we may link to it. And that's.
And organize on Prison Planet, Planet InfoWars. Sorry, yeah, organize there. I mean, people have gotten together groups to fight things at a local level, and that's a great place to start organizing.
Okay. Thank you for your call, sir. We'll move now to Jason in Florida.
Hello.
Hello, Jason.
Hello. This is Jason from A Grave for Jason. How you doing?
Good. Good.
I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to get on here and say a few things about this Boston thing today. First of all, there's two words that keep coming up in a lot of these reports that I see with regards to a box truck. Now, there was a sign that laid behind the head of the former CIA asset, Jim Jones, that said those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I seem to remember box truck being commonly used in the Oklahoma City bombing back nearly 20 years ago. I think we're approaching the 19th anniversary of that. Or no, sorry, we're approaching the 18th anniversary of that. That was 95. But if you want to see where the pendulum of blame is going to be swinging, I and the rest of the guys here in A Grave for Jason all agree that this has definitely got false flag written all over it, and they are definitely going to blame constitutionalists, libertarians, et cetera, et cetera. Now, earlier I was listening to another great talk show program, conservative talk show program, where a caller had gotten on and said, well, Eric Holder's already calling this a terrorist attack. Now, I just thought it was surprising because it wasn't very, very long after the planes hit the buildings, and an obvious terrorist attack by criminal elements within our government, to call it an act of terror by a foreign or by an outside source, correct? Well, why should this guy be surprised? That Eric Holder, even after a few hours, even though he is very, very much a criminal, and we know that they should all be brought up on war crimes, but I don't think it was that soon afterwards that they call it a terrorist attack. Like I said, I'm a listener. I love the show, and I see box truck. I see all these other things.
Well, thanks for calling. Yeah, you're right. They are going to blame it because they already are blaming it on so-called right-wing terrorists. We've already heard Peter Bergen, and he'd been working on this narrative we talked about earlier. On April the 4th, he published an article on CNN talking about how we don't need to worry about Islamicists. We need to worry about right-wing domestic home terrorists. And he was talking about the number of incidents. And there was a minuscule number of incidents for both Al-Qaeda, quote-unquote, terrorist and as well as a domestic terrorist. And yet, he's saying, we got to put the full force of Homeland Security on this. And that was, 11 days ago that he was talking about that. And then today, he's the first one out of the box, along with many others who are blaming it on conservative, constitutionalists, and that sort of thing. But the question is, what do those groups have to gain from bombing the Boston Marathon? Why would that be a target? How could that possibly be a target?
Guys, in about 10 minutes, finish up with your calls. I'm going to do a final report. You've done a great job today, and we'll have more reportage, obviously, at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and then we'll have Overdrive with you guys for 2 hours in the Nightly News tomorrow. But I just saw Mark Furman with Sean Hannity say, I've been to Israel, I've taken their anti-terror courses, and the difference is they have the good of the whole, like Spock or something, and here our liberties trump everything, and that's the problem.
Right.
I mean, this is like 1 minute ago. I mean, statistically, 300,000, 400,000 die in car wrecks, hundreds of thousands from flesh-eating bacteria, all this stuff. This is just the total hyping of this is ridiculous. I mean, do they go show when a Predator drone kills 100 villagers to get one, quote, bad guy?
No.
They show the little kids with their arms and legs blown off? No, they don't. They do everything they can to block that off the news. And this is just pure exploitation, whether they staged it or not, and I think they did. They are just squeezing every drop of blood out of this thing. And it's disgusting. But go ahead and take 7 or 8 more calls. Great job. Make your points. And then,
we heard
10 minutes. I'll go on for about 10 minutes of final comments on this special live transmission. It's 8:41 and 5 seconds Central Standard Time. And David Knight, Jakari Jackson, please continue.
We heard for the longest time that the Muslims hate us because of our freedoms.
Yeah.
And now we're being told that our freedoms are the cause of our danger.
That's exactly right. It's always something. It's always the boogeyman. It's all, like last year, it was Coney, and some guy who people speculate has been dead for 6+ years is enslaving the children.
When I was growing up, you used to always hear people say, "Oh, do what you want. It's a free country," type of thing. You don't hear people saying that anymore.
No, it's like,
okay,
you
hear
do
people
what you want and go to jail.
Yeah, you hear people saying there ought to be a law. Okay, and we used to live in a much, much freer country. And it was a much safer country.
Just pass a law against heart attacks or lightning striking you. Well, the answer is they are. We're going to tell you what to eat. I mean, it's just there's no end to this. I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And yet we saw that even with all the king's horses and all the king's men and all the king's bomb-sniffing dogs, they couldn't find the bomb on the finish line.
Exactly.
With all the photography that was there and all the people that were at the finish line. I mean, there's nowhere else along the route where you're going to have the biggest concentration of press, of cameras, of police, of spectators than at the finish line.
Exactly.
Nobody saw anything, and they're not going to be able to protect you if you give up your freedoms.
And we'll move on. Was that Ryan in California, or is our next one Ryan in California?
That was Ryan in California. I think our next one is Mark.
Move on to who? Ryan, okay. Ryan.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Ryan? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, long time listener. I just, like you just said, I found very interesting as well the, concentration at the end of the race and the hardest place to get and to watch in the whole marathon is the end, and for this to take place there, and to have the dogs there. And, it really strikes, you as, how can no one see this? And how could this go on, without anybody seeing it, And the 400 troops that the news claimed, National Guard troops that were already there, you know what I mean? I don't think that the Boston Marathon constitutes 400 National Guard troops to already be stationed in Boston. I mean, it has all the signs. And a friend of mine, who is also a longtime listener, had sent me some pictures a few days ago. I actually have them. If you, I can email them after I get off the phone, of them performing drills 5 days ago.
In Boston?
In Boston, okay. In the Esplanade and off of Sturrow Drive, performing some sort of search and destroy drill. It's, so they were there 5 days ago, They've probably been there the whole time, and it just really has all the signs. And I think that out of all the things that we've seen in the past years that have it, the false flag written all over it, it seems as though this is rather a sloppy job. I mean, it's really coming to light very, very quickly, and it's
Tell you what, can you stay on the line? We need to go to another caller, but can you stay on the line because I'd like to get that information from you.
Sure.
All right, great.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's not a false flag, what we got here is amazing incompetence.
Right.
I got to say that. Okay, the next caller is Garmin in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Hey, Garmin, you there? Carmen, sorry.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
Man, I can't believe I got through to you guys. It's great. Great job, by the way, on what y'all are doing.
Thank you.
Keep up a good fight. A friend of mine sent me a Facebook page or a Facebook email today, and there was a page that was created this past Saturday on Facebook. I don't know if you guys know about this or not, but the title of the Facebook page is "Thoughts Go Out to All Involved in the Boston Explosions."
Can you say that one more time?
Thoughts go out to all involved in Boston explosions.
Can you guys pull that up, please?
I've already tried to go to this page, and it says that the Facebook page cannot be found.
Really?
The person that sent this to me obviously got it from another person, but they took a picture of the screen, and I have it on my phone as well. There's only 18 likes and one photo. On the bottom left-hand side, there's a few names, and I'm not going to give these names out over the air because obviously for, personal, I don't want to, put their personal information out over the air. But like I say, there's only, it was created on Saturday, and to me, this is like Sandy Hook, times 10.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's going to be, I think it's going to be much bigger than Sandy Hook. Look at the nature of this. This is a different type of terrorist attack than we've seen in the past, and they're going to use it in a very different way to do some very different things than they've done in the past.
Yeah, just like what David was saying. You think about Sandy Hook, you have an incident within a school. People think of it as a confined incident, but you have something in public that not only concerns children, but people of all ages, people from various countries, as Dan told us. He saw people from Australia, Mexico, all over. Mm-hmm. So I do agree this could definitely be more of a international story.
Yeah.
And if you would stay on the line, if you guys could get his information, producers, so we might be able to get that photo. And
okay, we've got a video from Dan Vidani we're going to throw to. Hang on, callers.
Have to take any questions?
Oh, sir, why are the loudspeakers telling people in the audience stuff? Be calm, moments before the bomb went off. Is this another false flag stage attack to take our civil liberties, promote homeland security, while sticking a hand down on the kids on the streets?
No. Next question.
You have said that there's no stuff.
In the morning, the medical people are compiling that as we speak.
Again, why are the speakers telling people to be calm?
Characterizing active terrorism, extent of the injuries.
Main point of focus right now.
Okay, why are the speakers telling people to be calm before the bomb went off? I'd like to answer that question.
Currently in your search for additional devices, are you searching the entire room?
So the investigation is in the area that the governor mentioned.
Why was people going off?
Are there any accounted for people? If so, how was it?
We're actually working very closely with the families right now. We're going through those right now.
Okay, why was people being told prior?
9:30 tomorrow morning will be the next briefing. Thank you.
they're going to have somebody out there. Look out for this bald guy coming in.
Live. I want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to CNN's team coverage.
There you go. Here's Morgan to the rescue.
Okay.
Great job, Dan.
Great job, Dan.
I'll tell you what, he's relentless, isn't he?
He is. Okay, and I think we're about ready to go to Alex, so let's take one or two more calls before we go there. Let's go to Bill in Indiana.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Very great. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good. I just, I've been listening for the day. I'm really glad you guys stayed on for as long as you have. I know it's tough. My question is anybody thought about a connection between this stuff going on and the UN small arms treaty? I know that we, I guess, whoever it is, John Kerry, decided to, just say, well, I'll run it by the Senate, and I guess the Senate voted on it, and it was a very slim margin, but basically they voted no, 53-46. and it just seems, when Alex was talking about, somebody said something about liberties trumping, everything. Isn't that a UN complaint?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I know that there's no way that I can discount an inside job from our own government, but if there's one thing that I fear more than our own government, it's the UN. And I just, the whole idea is just something to take into consideration, that this is, not bullying from our own government, but perhaps bullying from whoever's in charge of all this orchestration from, UN stuff.
Well, and the thing to understand, too, Bill, is that a lot of what goes on in the UN is being directed by people that are in our government. And basically, they're using the UN to do an end around our Constitution and our guarantees, constitutionally protected guarantees and rights. So if they can they're going to use whatever means they can. And one of the things that they've been up to, I think, is a multi-pronged attack to get gun registration and more comprehensive registration. I think that's what they've been at from the very beginning. I think they were going after it with the UN Arms Trade Treaty. I thought they could get it there. If they couldn't, they're going to do it in the regular legislative process, but that's the target. I think that's what they're going after, and I think certainly they're going to use this to help them. They're going to use everything they can to scare people. We got people who are afraid and paranoid. They don't know what's going on. They want the government to protect them. And you're going to hear those people get even more shrill when somebody stands up to protect our Second Amendment rights, like Mike Lee or Senator Rand Paul. You're going to hear them just, come after them with a shrillness that you've never heard before.
Exactly. And I believe it was Kerry. You mentioned Kerry. I believe it was him who said that foreign exchange students don't want to come here because of our gun laws, which I thought was pretty ridiculous. I'm not sure exactly what students he was referring to, if there's any from any particular country, but I'm pretty sure.
They probably realize that education in this country is not a very good value at the college level anymore.
That's more of what I think it was.
That's right.
So we definitely appreciate your call. I think we're about ready to go to Alex. Let's take one last call. Alex in Canada. Can you hear me, Alex? Yes.
Hi. There's three things I wanted to talk about. One, did you guys see the tweet from the Boston Globe saying breaking news, police will have a controlled explosion?
Can you repeat that? That headline?
A little before the incident, there was a tweet from the Boston Globe saying police will have a controlled explosion on 600 block on Bolston Street.
Really?
It was about half an hour before the incident. So I found that really interesting that they were saying there's going to be an explosion, and then there's the explosion. I also have seen a lot of things come up on social media. I've been scouring for the last hour since this happened, and since I found out about it happening. The last mile of the race, the finish line, was dedicated to Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook incident. So I found it very interesting how they linked the two together. Also, I saw the Facebook group also as well that the caller earlier talked about. I tagged Alex Jones in it on Twitter for all three of these things.
Okay, we'll try to dig those up.
I've got one thing to add to that. I got a tweet about 5:15 from my wife, who is as much of an information hound as I am on this stuff, and she's been on it. She said the tweets about controlled explosion were about a controlled explosion on the unexploded devices that were found. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly bears some more investigation, see what we can find out about that.
Yeah, and all these things, these tweets, these Facebook pages, or whatever else it is, we definitely need our info warriors to screen capture these things and get it to us, because these things may not always be there. Now I'm told we're ready to go to Alex in the other studio to finish out the show.
Alex, you there? All right, we have Alex there on the screen.
All right, folks, here we are. It is 8:53 Central Standard Time with InfoWars Nightly News Extended live coverage here this evening. I'm going to wrap this up very, very soon so our limited crew can get some rest before tomorrow. But this has all the telltale signs of being a staged event. This has all the telltale signs of being a false flag, or at least a provocateur event, a crisis they won't let go to waste. But if you've seen how many times the military-industrial complex and its foreign owners have provocateured or staged events to take our liberties, it would make your head spin. And that's why I'm glad that we have been here as real media challenging the official narrative tonight. That's why I'm glad that we have been here to point out, hey, we have a group that has staged hundreds of false flag terror attacks and thousands of medical experiments, many of them lethal, against foster kids, minorities, veterans, the general public. And so they have a motive and a history of acting like this. That's why they're in control, because they're ruthless. And they love the image of running, screaming, scared crowds and Papa government, Mama government, there to protect everybody. Now, our East Coast reporter, Dan Badandi, who's a real bear when it comes to taking action, he charged in there, and at one press conference earlier today asked about the drills they had, and then in another with the governor brought up false flag. You can see the InfoWars flag with his microphone up there, and he got the first question in, and they ended the press conference a few minutes into it. It only went like 2 minutes when O'Reilly and Fox and CNN and MSNBC were all carrying it. We have TVs all over this office. It was all on there. And they ended it because the governor was like freaking out. They shut this press conference down. And, of course, you notice the governor knows what a false flag is to take our liberties. He didn't say, what's that? He went, no, we're not doing this for that. I mean, this whole thing stinks to high heaven. And the cops everywhere have been caught attacking their own officers as a pretext to arrest protesters. This is one step up from that. Blow a few legs off. Everybody gets pay raises. Everybody's heroes. And it's the oldest trick in the book, and no one wants us to discuss that. Oh, it's so preposterous. Who would ever imagine that somebody would stage something to get power? Why, that never happens. Reichstag, Nero, burning Rome, fiddling. I mean, there's so many examples of this, so they want us to not talk about something that's a known phenomenon and who has the motive out there. So let's go to Dan Badandi. Here it is.
Have you take any questions?
Oh, sir, why the loudspeaker telling people in New York and stuff, be calm moments before the bomb went off? Is this another false flag stage attack to take our civil liberties and promote homeland security? Sticking a hand down on the on the streets?
No. Next question.
You have said that there's no suspect.
In the morning, the medical people are compiling that as we speak.
Again, why we speaking telling people to be calm? Terrorism.
Extent of the injuries.
Main point of focus right now.
Again, why we speaking telling people to be calm before the bomb went off? I want to answer that question.
Currently in your search for additional devices, are you searching the entire room?
The investigation is in the area that the governor mentioned.
Why was people going off?
Are there any unaccounted for people? If so, how was it?
We're actually working very closely with the families right now. We're going through those right now.
Why was people being told prior? 9:30 tomorrow morning will be the next briefing. Thank you. The bombs were off the same time.
Right there.
That's a false flag, gentlemen. This is Piers Morgan Live. I want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to CNN's team coverage of.
And then you've got the military creeping around. 400 members of the military there. And, of course, didn't keep you safe from it, did it? And then they're saying, could it be Saudi Arabia, the group our government runs, the group our government lets attack Libya and Syria? Well, I just want to say again, because they work really hard, and I want everybody to know how hard we're working to get you the truth. Our entire group of staff, reporters, IT people, everybody, and you, the listeners that spread the word about prisonplanet.com, prisonplanet.tv, infowars.com, we couldn't do any of this. We couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for the support of the viewers like you. And this is a real operation. This is teleprompter free. We use history as our guide, justice as our North Star, and liberty as our destination. And I have 3 children. I have a great wife. I have a great family. I'm, quite frankly, endangering them to do this, because I realize there's no future, there's no shore to land on, there's no destination if we don't reverse this entire criminal tide in this course. We can't turn society and the whole world over to the very worst people in our culture and in our world. And if we act like cowards and grovel for tyranny every time there's an event, there will be people that will supply us with events so they can pose as the drama queens. We are not the United States of drama queening. We are the United States of America, And we are the big imperial empire, so everybody wants to seize us. And the empire's murdering and bombing and slaughtering people en masse everywhere. It's going to stage a few stimuluses against itself as the pretext to go out against the world. And a lot of people say, well, so what? We're an empire. We get the money from it. No, we don't. We pay for the empire. We don't even get the spoils. So even if you are a wannabe globalist and a corrupt person, a thief, you're not part of the winning team if you join the New World Order. You're a schmuck, you're a sucker, you're a dupe, you're someone lying to themselves that they're part of the power structure. All right, that's it for this extended. We did 5 hours of radio today, and the other guys did 3 or 4 hours, and then we've done a couple hours here, so I don't know, how many hours? From 11 a.m. to now, how many hours is that? 10 hours of transmission here for a news crew that would normally run a small town station. And again, great job to everybody. We're reaching millions of people. And history's happening. We don't have to sit by while the globalists, provocateurs stage events and do this. And so tomorrow we'll continue with the free video feed, where there's always free audio feeds for everybody at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com/listen. You can also find the free links at The Real Alex Jones on Twitter, so be sure and follow us there. I'm going to go sleep for a few hours, get up, doing the daytime show tomorrow, then extra coverage, and then I'm doing 3 hours overnight, Coast to Coast AM, on this subject and others. So be sure and join us for that. And without further ado, it's 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock Pacific. We'll know a lot more tomorrow, so join me at 11 a.m. Central for the kickoff of the official InfoWars Alex Jones radio show. And until then, I'm Alex Jones signing off. Remember, if you're watching this transmission, you are the resistance.
And the other thing I think I'd say is that if this does turn out to be terrorism, don't immediately jump to conclusions about who's responsible. There's some... It's more than rumour, it's chatter from within the intelligence services that suggests that it might not be what one's mind perhaps leaps to of Islamic radicals, but that it could be homegrown extremists who, of course, have attacked in the past within America.
Indeed, one recalls the Oklahoma bomb, of course, which was attributed initially to Islamic terrorists and turned out to be homegrown. Yes, exactly, and there's reports that happened on the night, and I'm saying reports because I just haven't had time to check it out, that happened also on Patriot Day, which is today, the first Monday in April. So that might have a special significance. And we know that the Homeland Security have, ever since President Obama was elected, been on potential alert for an incident that came from the right, as well as, of course, their continual alert about potential Islamic terrorism.
I said that was it for the show, but I hadn't seen that clip. I saw the article about it. And again, they're all saying this, and then I'm going, they're going to blame us. And then Glenn Beck says I'm bad to say that, along with Media Matters in the White House. I mean, I don't know who they're end up blaming for it, but I know who the prime suspect is and who stands to gain and who has a history of this and who runs al-Qaeda worldwide, who's putting al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria. All right, that is officially the end of the transmission. See you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. Please pray for us and for America and for those that were attacked. I'll pray for you.
In an emergency situation, would you drink contaminated water? You could if you had the amazing LifeStraw from MyPatriotSupply.com. LifeStraw is the most advanced personal water filter available today. It filters contaminated water from almost any source. Perfect for hiking, camping, or in an emergency like a flood. LifeStraw is easy to clean, comes with a 1-year warranty, and has been used worldwide since 2005. Get the amazing LifeStraw personal water filter at MyPatriotSupply.com. Plus, check out Survival Seed Vault, 20 seed varieties for only $37.95, Tatler canning lids, long-term storable foods as low as $69.95, and much more at MyPatriotSupply.com. Enjoy stress-free shipping on all orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927 or visit MyPatriotSupply.com. That's 866-229-0927. MyPatriotSupply.com for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, all Hades is breaking loose in world markets, including gold. The globalists are on record saying that they have been artificially suppressing the price of precious metals because it competes with their fiat currencies, which they're devaluing. But in the laws of finance and the laws of economics, gold and silver and other commodities will only go up over time. The insiders, of course, control the major stock markets and can go up and down and ride the rallies up and then, of course, trigger the declines downward. And that's all part of the record, from LIBOR and the fixing of interest rates to the plunge protection team. But I have expected that they could massively drive down gold. But if you look at a 12, 13-year graph, it will only go back up later. That's why I'm not going to sell any of the gold or silver I have. And again, I don't have gold and silver, the gold and silver I have, as a investment, as something to try to make a bunch of money, even though most of the gold I bought was when it was below $500, silver when it was below $10. I've taken the capital, extra capital that's been brought in really since, and put it into the news operations. But I do have an emergency backup nest egg, a little bit of cash, a little bit of gold and silver, a little bit of property. But personally, if they drove gold down to $1,000 an ounce, or if they drove gold down to $600 an ounce, I'm not going to sell it, because that just shows what a totally manipulated society we're in, where they use naked shorting to do this. And we're going to get Gerald Celente, Max Kaiser to pop in today or tomorrow with their take on what's happening with this, and we will continue to track it. If you go up to drudgereport.com, we can punch this up on screen for people for who are watching on prisonplanet.tv. They've got a live feed of what's going on there via Bloomberg. Gold is down 6.91%. 6.91% to $1,380 an ounce. They're calling this a collapse. A collapse would be losing half its value is generally what you call a collapse, not 6.91. But they're trying to create a collapse. Here's the headlines. Gold set for worst two-day loss since 1983. I've got other headlines here where they're calling it a collapse. So that's the type of stuff that's going on. Investors bail amid collapse. There's the headline. Panic is everywhere. Worst two-day loss since 1983. So that's how the media is pushing at ABC News. Gold investors exit amid price collapse. Meanwhile, you'll see Soros badmouth gold. You'll see other globalists do it. They just want to be able to drive it down to buy it. And they're forcing Cyprus to sell off its gold because Cyprus was signed on to prop up European bonds. And the EU is in the news today saying, we're doing great. Everything is going according to plan. Europe's great. And they mean the globalists that are